Today I'm going to be making a homemade salad, so I need to chop my lettuce, dice a tomato, and then slice carrots. I'm also going to be making a homemade Italian dressing to put on top of it. So first I'm going to chop the lettuce, and for that I'll be using my chef's knife because I don't want to be lifting my knife off the board when I have to go back down and chop more of them. So I need a longer knife, and then I don't want to be having to saw back and forth, so I also need a longer knife for that. Yeah, so I'm going to chop my lettuce now. And when you're chopping, you want to make sure your fingers are curled back like this, not straightened out like this, because you have a greater risk of slicing your finger if your fingers are laying flat like this versus curled back like that. Alright, so that should be enough lettuce. So I'm going to put my knife down and then put all my lettuce in my bowl. And then so next I'm going to be dicing or slicing my carrots, and for this I'll use a slicing motion with my knife, and I could use any knife I wanted. Since I have these petite carrots versus a very big, long, more sizable carrot, it would be more ideal if I had a paring knife to slice these, but I do not have one. The closest thing I have to a paring knife is this smaller dinner knife. It's not a chef's knife, but it's not a paring knife either because it's too long. So I'm just going to keep continuing to use my chef's knife. So same thing, you want to keep your fingers back. I put them all in a line so it's easier for me to cut. And I'm going to use the same motion, lifting the back of my knife off, and then pushing through. Fingers tucked again to make sure you don't cut them. And there we go. So now I'll put those in my salad. And then lastly, I am going to dice my tomato. So I don't need the whole thing, so I'm just going to cut part of the end off that I'll be using and put the rest away, and I'll put it in a baggie and save it for later. So for the same reasons as before, I'm also going to be using a chef's knife for this, just so I don't have to do any slicing or a sawing motion, and so I can keep it on the table, or keep it on the board, not the table. So we'll go through and cut my tomato. And then you want to turn it 90 degrees so you can go the other way and get smaller pieces. You have to be a little bit more careful with this since the tomato is squishy. And there we go. So now I have all the ingredients for my salad in the bowl. And now I will be making the homemade Italian dressing. So for this I need, for all my dry ingredients, I need a tablespoon of garlic salt, a tablespoon of onion powder, a tablespoon of sugar, a tablespoon of dried oregano, a teaspoon of black pepper, a quarter of a teaspoon of dried thyme, a teaspoon of dried basil, and a tablespoon of dried parsley, and also 2 tablespoons of salt. So I've pre-mixed these already in a bowl. I use lesser quantities since I'm not going to be making this whole batch, because the dried spices, you use them in 2 tablespoon quantities later to make the full batch of the Italian dressing. So here are all my seasonings, and now I will be putting in the wet ingredients into this bowl. So I can get rid of this. And so now I need 1/4 of a cup of white vinegar, which I have right here. And I'll be putting this in the bowl. So there we go, that's done. I need 2/3 of a cup of canola oil. So there's that going in the bowl. And then I need 2 tablespoons of water. So I filled this cup up earlier with water. So there's 2 tablespoons of water in the bowl. And then I also need 2 tablespoons of the dry ingredients. So there's 1 and 2. So now I am going to whisk it all together. And so now this mixture is an emulsion, which is defined as small droplets of one liquid suspended in another liquid. And this combines 2 liquids that maintain their distinct characteristics, so the oil and the water. The specific emulsion is water and oil because the fat is in the continuous phase or bulk phase, and the water is in the dispersed phase or the droplet suspended phase. This means the water is dispersed in the fat. So an example of oil and water emulsion is mayonnaise, milk, or cream. An example of water and oil emulsion is vinaigrettes or butter. By whisking the 2 together, I created a temporary emulsification through a shearing power, so that's the whisk. And so, as you can see, they are combined now. And eventually the surface tension will return and the water and oil will separate again, separating the phases again. And now it's time for me to go enjoy my salad, and thanks for watching.